July the 9th, 2019. As you're looking at the 5-day graphical weather forecast from the National Hurricane Center, we still have an 80% chance of development of this system. It's a broad low pressure system located over the eastern Florida panhandle. Notice now it's not in Georgia. It's dropping a little quicker. They were predicting it coming out on the 11th. I said it looked like it was moving a little faster. And it actually looks like one edge of it now is starting to get over the water. We'll keep an eye on that, guys. But again, it's producing disorganized shower activity. It hasn't got over the water yet. The low is forecast to move southward, southwestward, and merge over the northeastern Gulf of Mexico later today. Once this system is over water, environmental conditions are expected to be conducive for tropical cyclone formation, and a tropical depression is likely developed by late Wednesday or Thursday. And just as they've been saying, guys, regardless of tropical development, a lot of rain, in some places 7+ inches. And that was a prediction from a couple of days ago, and that was kind of along the Florida panhandle. And so what happens in this westward path as it tracks across Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, into Texas, as it gets into that very hot water, guys, that could change. Not only will the storm strengthen, but the amount of moisture involved could increase. There could be heavy flooding. Now, this thing could be a blessing in a lot of ways. We don't want anyone to get hurt. We don't want anyone to lose their homes in flooding. But the Gulf Stream itself has cut off from the Gulf. I'll show you that model here. And we've got beaches closed again in several areas. Toxic algae bloom, dolphins washing up. And so it's like the aerator in your aquarium went out. And it's presenting a lot of problems, guys, from the water being stale, extremely hot, lack of oxidation, to the flooding rivers all along this area, and pesticides, insecticides, the fresh water from the rivers themselves, that is rainwater coming in there and kind of disrupting the entire cycle. So this could help that, and it could be a blessing in that way, but everyone should be prepared. We hope it doesn't strengthen into a major storm. Now let's take a look at the entire Atlantic as you watch the sunrise this morning. You've got an extreme amount of Saharan dust still in the atmosphere. Now, the main glow that you see as the sun moves across is actually the reflection off the ocean, the top of the clouds, the top of the sand, which is made of silica glass or this dust. And that's what you're seeing lingering here. There's a couple of openings south in this area. If you watch as the sun comes through there, this storm or this system right here has absorbed some of the moisture. The reason I'm looking at that is because of this storm behind it, guys. We've seen them come off, and we've seen them blocked by high pressure and absorbed into this dust storm. We're seeing some weakening of that, and as you see the jet streams change, then you're going to have some of that dust blown a little further north. All it's going to take is a path for a storm like we see now here to come under this high pressure where the low pressure is setting up to get into this area. That's how it works every year. Now, there's a couple reasons I'm watching this particular storm, and I'll show you. And I had this question yesterday in one of the comments when we were watching one of the videos. Come here to our links on BPEarthWatch.com and click on Null Wind Map. And this gives you your wind patterns at different heights, guys. And so you can see under the clouds here over the Mississippi-Louisiana border, you see an anticyclonic or clockwise rotation. But here's what they're watching. This is a counterclockwise cyclonic rotation, and everything's setting up. Notice part of it is over the Gulf of Mexico. Notice right here, the wind is picking up. That's what this indicates, and you can see where these low pressure systems do this, especially when they get out over water, and that's what we're starting to see. So we're going to keep an eye on it. But let's move over to the Atlantic, to the storm that I'm watching, guys. You have that very same thing, but much stronger. Right here, under those clouds, you see that? That's cyclonic rotation. And if this thing can get through this dust, and it's starting to get in an opening right here because of that front in front of it, remember? Then we're going to have problems. But it's time for the Atlantic to be active. You see what I'm saying? Hurricanes are not a good thing, but they're part of the natural cycle of cooling our planet. If you don't have these storms, the heat will build up on the surface of the waters to where, as that breeze goes over the ocean onto the land, it becomes hotter and hotter. These storms lift up very high into the atmosphere, pull that warm air off the surface, and cool it down. It is the natural cooling process of our planet. It can be destructive. That's why you have to watch them. But without these, the earth would be so hot, guys, you couldn't live here. It has to do it. And the problem is, as we go into grand solar minimum, our shields are weak, more gamma radiation penetrating to the surface of our planet, then the storms are going to have to be stronger and stronger to release that heat. But guys, just a close-up look before we change this, and you can see that's definitely some very well organized cyclonic rotation under those clouds, and they appear what you would normally see as a hurricane system forming coming off of Africa. We just had so much interference. And just another thing to mention about that Atlantic rotation is you can see the storms that have formed here in the Pacific, and they have weakened down. We don't have anything major going towards Hawaii. Someone come up with about a Cat 5 a few days ago, but I never saw a Cat 5, guys. I never saw even a Cat 1 really form here. But you can see the difference in this area right here. This is not part of the storm. This is anti or clockwise rotation. But this is one of the systems they've watched, and they've kind of been forming down here. But this one does not have that low-level rotation as far as the strength of it, the way that one in the Atlantic coming off the coast of Africa does. So there's definitely something to watch. Now let's take a look at the Gulf Stream model. Guys, in normal circumstances, this Gulf Stream that you see here, it's coming down around the southern tip of Florida and back up into the Atlantic, has traveled all the way around the Gulf of Mexico itself and keeping everything stirred up good, fresh water, extremely good fishing, things like that. And at the end of June, this stream was still connected to this central rotation here. But it still wasn't right, but it was predicted then by July the 4th to break away and completely isolate the Gulf of Mexico within just this inner system. No fresh supply of cooler water, nothing. Okay? And it has now. So the Gulf Stream itself is only affecting this part. So all of this is stagnated. So the storm, again, is a needed thing. It's just we don't want anybody to get hurt. But Mother Nature, regardless of what happens, will eventually try to heal itself. And we may see a lot of healing this summer. Now, they're starting to show some spaghetti models, which is, I think, another first for systems on land. But you can see one model has it curving back up and through Alabama and back out to the East Coast. One model brings it in around Gulfport, Mississippi. And the other models are taking it a little further out. One recurves it here off the coast of Louisiana near the mouth of the Mississippi River. And one brings it into Louisiana here, and the other one brings it into Texas south of Houston. But, guys, we won't know until it gets out into the water and starts forming a little stronger, because once they do that, they kind of control the weather themselves that's right in that area. The water in the Gulf of Mexico is extremely warm right now. Now, this is the European Central or Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, the ECMWF model. And what it's showing is the system moving off the coast right here where it's at, forming, gaining a lot of low pressure, and moving back up through the Louisiana-Texas border area and headed north. Now, this is called the Global Forecast System, or the GFS, and it shows the storm, or the low pressure system, moving into Texas. So their models are kind of varied between Texas and Mississippi right now, guys, or that one that recurved it up through Alabama and into Georgia. But this is what they're expecting here. This is sea level pressure and precipitable water in the system here. You can see that it forms, stays up just offshore, and moves in south of Houston, which would put that northeast most dangerous quadrant into Galveston Bay. We've seen what happens there. This one may not have time to form into a major hurricane, but it will help, I think, the situation in the Gulf itself. I hate to keep saying this, we don't want anyone hurt, but these storms are going to be forming, and the hotter it gets, and we're having record heat. All of this area is under heat warnings today on land. These storms are going to increase. Now let's take a quick look at the earthquake situation over in California today. 1,748 aftershocks. Pressure's still on now. They're not as strong. We've seen them level out in the 3.9, 4.5 range, and that's what we're still seeing. But guys, that's a lot of aftershocks right here on this Air Force base, and most of it's contained there. A lot of underground missile testing, explosive testing, and I'll try to remember at the end of this video just a short clip of some of the testing that has been going on there now. Now the base is closed. I don't think they're experimenting. We really don't know because no one can get there. There was some damage. Imagine a 7.1 and the epicenter is on the base. Has to be some damage. And it's definitely needed personnel only that can get in there. You know no one's going to get in there and take any pictures. But guys, that's a lot of aftershock. So the pressure is still on in California. The solar wind speed, we'll take a quick look at that, is still rising. And indicated here in kilometers per second, again in the purple line, you can see where this started yesterday, and we saw our magnetopause start to collapse. But still on the rise. We're seeing a peak here, guys. Maybe it will start going down here, and we're kind of getting lucky and dodging a bullet. But I think with so much pressure that's been released with the 7.1, the 6.9 down, again, in the southern edges of the Ring of Fire, that maybe some of that will, maybe some of the solar wind will not impact our tectonic plates the way we've seen it before. But it's not over. This is supposed to last, guys, until probably midnight or more. We'll keep an eye on it, but it's definitely on the rise, as you see the peaks here at 452, in the 480s, almost 500 kilometers per second. It's over 1 million miles an hour. And guys, I want to mention one of you guys had asked me a question yesterday about Oak Ridge, and it is definitely running. It's a small CERN, guys, just to keep it kind of simple. But it's in Tennessee where this low pressure system formed, and we've seen the effects of CERN worldwide, even our magnetopause. But the article is saying, could 2019 be the year humans open the first portal to a shadowy dimension which mirrors our own world? That was the intent in my reasoning behind CERN the entire time, was to open that veil, crack that veil that was closed to the demons, to the fallen angels. They want that reopened. But scientists in Oak Ridge National Laboratory in eastern Tennessee hope so and have completed building equipment they are to test this summer, which we're in, which may allow us to the first glimpse of a parallel universe, which could be identical in many ways to our own, with mirror particles, mirror planets, and possibly even mirror life. Guys, that's what they're doing. That's what they've been doing, this mirror life. What do you think that is? It's the fallen angels that were cut off. Now, whether it has anything to do with this low pressure system or not, we don't know, but it's an unusual system. We've never seen anything like that. They start watching it, start doing spaghetti models while it's still on land 2 or 3 days ahead of time. Again, I don't know what's going on here, but I said last year when CERN closed down, and it's not running now, or either they're not letting anyone see their operation at all on the outside world. But I said then, when they closed it, I said, I think they've reached the luminosity point that they wanted to achieve from the beginning, and that is part of parting that veil. And that technology can be passed on to the other 30,000 colliders around this planet. Oak Ridge is a very important one. It's here where the money's at. And again, this summer, they want to break that veil. Are we seeing results of that? Guys, you remember when CERN first kicked up? They could only run it at certain times of the year because it was draining so much power. People didn't have enough electricity to heat and cool and things like that. They had to only run CERN, and then that stopped. I don't know if CERN finally installed nuclear generators, power generators, or what. But the definite effects. So I just thought this was kind of strange that they're trying to break that veil in Tennessee, and we start seeing the weather like this come out of that area. Guys, we're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.